The time is 6:30. I'm going to call to order the Agenda Committee meeting for the Board of Commissioners tonight, Tuesday, June 10th, 2014. At this time, please register your attendance.
You have 15 present, 6 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. I know Commissioner Birchfield and Commissioner Merle had other events this evening, conflicts with family issues, and Commissioner Green has been called out because of the severe weather. Speaking of severe weather and emergencies, please pay attention to the screen for the emergency announcement.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
At this time, I will move for setting of the agenda. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert, seconded by Commissioner Farmer. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to set the agenda as published. Commissioner Moon?
You have 16 yeses.
The agenda is approved as published. At this time, I'll open the floor up for public input of items on the agenda. Ms. King, come forward.
Thank you. I'm Linda King with Citizens for Blount County's Future. I represent the private sector. At last night's budget meeting, or the supposed public hearing, which was not introduced at 5:30, your financial director made a very disturbing remark. He said, "We don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem." With that mentality, I guess that most of us at home have a revenue problem too. But common sense tells us that we can't spend more than we bring into our household, so we cut expenses. Also with that mentality, it apparently means that he wants more revenue from the taxpayers to match the government overspending. Just think about it. More taken from the private sector taxpayers would mean that our revenue problems in our homes would increase. But that doesn't seem to matter to the spenders of taxpayer money. Instead of asking departments how much they want to spend, how about telling them how much they can spend and make them budget accordingly? That would amount to a common sense practice of staying within revenue like we must do at home. Using rainy day funds to balance this year's budget is wrong, just like it has been in past years. Instead of elected officials buying more cars, planning travel expenses, and giving themselves thousands of dollars in raises, they should use a concerted effort to stay within revenue, running this government like a private sector business. No, you don't have a revenue problem. You have a spending addiction.
Anybody else wishing to speak to items on the agenda? Ms. Miller, come forward.
I'm Karen Miller, and I live in District 4. And I'd like to say, second what Linda just said to you, we definitely have a spending problem. It's totally lack of common sense when you're spending more than when you're bringing in. It's time to cut the budgets. You people here were elected to represent the citizens and the taxpayers of this community, and you are not representing them by spending more than you're taking in. Use common sense for a change and make things correct. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak to items on the agenda? Seeing no other hands, we will conclude that part of the agenda. Next is items on the consent calendar. We have 2 appointments. I'll entertain a motion to move those forward. I'm sorry. Approval of the committee minutes from May 6th. Do I have a motion? We have a motion made by Commissioner Moon, seconded by Commissioner Lambert. Any discussion about the minutes? Seeing no discussion, please vote to approve the minutes of May 6, 2014. Holden, Commissioner Lael.
You have 16 yeses.
The minutes are hereby approved. Now is item E, items for the consent calendar. I have 2 appointments that need to go forward on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Lambert, second by Commissioner Kaler. Any discussion?
That's on 2.
Yeah, on both. Commissioner Lambert, is it for both A and B? Commissioner Kaler, is that correct? So it's items 2A and 2B forwarded onto the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to move items 2A and 2B onto the consent calendar for the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Items 2A and 2B are hereby forwarded to the full commission's consent calendar. That concludes the consent calendar as right now. Next is unfinished business. We have discussion regarding the traffic patterns at the intersection of Friels Road and Old Gray Ridge Road. My understanding is that's an information-only item, and there's no action to be taken on that. Is that correct, Mr. Kirby? That's correct. So please. Well, we need to have a motion to open up for discussion. There's a motion made for discussion purposes only. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Moon. Jeff, can you please come forward so you can share with us some of your information?
Highway Department had a request to turn this particular intersection into a 4-way stop. The individual was rather certain that it should be, just in case the question come up to any of you commissioners, we thought it advisable to forward the information so that you'd have it at your disposal. As the letter says in your packet, the geometry is not really appropriate for a 4-way stop. There's only been 1 accident there since January 2011, and it was a rear-end accident because of the stop signs that are currently there. And we had a traffic study done by TTAP, and that's the other information you have there, and it comes nowhere near the traffic count to warrant additional stop signs at this location. And like I say, we just felt you needed this information in case any of your constituents had a question concerning this. You're welcome.
Any other discussion regarding this issue? Seeing no discussion, we will then move forward to new business. We have 4 budget transfers in the packet. I will entertain a motion for item G1A, General County, $35,312. There's a motion been made to move item G1A to the consent calendar. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Carver. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Roberts has been before this the state has seen fit to pick up this roof repair, and it can only be used for roof repair. It's state money. There's no matching funds. The only stipulation it has to be used to repair the roof at the health department.
Thank you, Commissioner Moon. Any other discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward this onto the consent calendar for the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G1A is hereby forwarded to the consent calendar. I will next entertain a motion for item G1B, $11,100 for Drug Court Fund 128. Do I have a motion? So moved. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner French. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward item G1B forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G1B is hereby forwarded to the full commission. Next is, I'll entertain a motion to forward item G1C, $80,815 for the Highway Department Fund 131 forward to the full commission. Motion made by Commissioner Moon, seconded by Commissioner Samples. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward item G1C forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G1C is hereby forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G1D, Debt Service Fund 151 for $14,575. I'll entertain a motion to forward that onto the full commission. Motion made by Commissioner Samples, seconded by Commissioner Moon. Any discussion? Commissioner Lewis, sorry, was the second. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward item G1D forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G1D is hereby forwarded to the full commission. That concludes our budget transfers. Next is item G2, budget increases. We have 3 items. I'll entertain a motion regarding item G2A, General County, for $10,000. Motion made by Commissioner Moon, seconded by Commissioner Kaler. Any discussion? See no discussion, please vote to forward item G2A on to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G2A is forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G2B, General County, $372,493. I'll entertain a motion to forward that to the full commission. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Carver. Commissioner Fultz, you are recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I'd like to ask Mr. Vineyard a few questions.
What are your questions?
The reason that we were short in this general liability fund was that we've been charging premiums to the departments that have been too low over the years. Now, I heard you make a comment last night, and it sounded like you were going to reduce the premium to the departments again as a result of having made up the deficit. Doesn't that mean that down the road, another couple of years, we're going to be in the same position again?
No, sir. My comment of reducing was attributed to the fiscal 15 budget. Currently, before last night, the guidance we had received from the comptroller's office was that we could not mid-year adjust self-insurance fund balances. And the only way to do that was in the form of addressing them at the beginning of a fiscal year in a budget. Since then, we have continued, though, and Based on that, we came to this body, I think it was in February, and asked you to set aside money. And the conversation at that time was looking at our issue in two components. One, as you stated, we in the past have not funded by charging premiums correctly to all of our operating departments. So we had an underfunding, and then we were having a new rate analysis that had been done by our risk manager, and we had set rates on a going forward or a normal cost type basis. To fix that, we were proposing to set aside and designate fund balance to take care of the past underfunding, and we would be appropriating that in the new budget and asking for funding for the new premium structure on a going forward basis. As part of our preliminary audit meetings with the Comptroller's Office for this year's audit, they have told us that they would now entertain us taking care of that business in the current year so that we're not addressing old problems and new funding going forward. So my comment is, if the commission were to approve what you have in front of you, we would take care of all the past funding shortages from highway, library, general county, and schools, take care of all of those past funding shortages in the current year, and then we would adjust the budget for next year and take those monies out of there, so it would reduce everybody's budget for next year.
Okay, just to be clear, in that scenario, the new scenario as you painted, our premiums that we're charging the departments will still be higher than they were in this year's budget.
As I recall, some will be higher, some will be lower, based on the experience analysis through the years.
Okay, but in the net, you're collecting more to put in the funds, I hope.
That is correct. We should not have this same issue going forward.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure of. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote to forward item G2B forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G2B is hereby forwarded on to the full commission. Next is, I'll entertain a motion to forward item G2C forward to the full commission, $345,148, general purpose schools, Fund 141. Motion made by Commissioner French. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Moon. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward item G2C forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G2C is hereby forwarded to the full commission, and that concludes budget increases and decreases. Next is other budget items. I have 3 items underneath budget, other budget and purchasing items. The first one is, I'll entertain a motion regarding a resolution to designate fund balance. This is going to be item G3A. A motion made by Commissioner Moon, seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any discussion?
Would you have Mr. Vineyard do what he did last night in the Budget Committee? Would he step through this and the reason why we're reclassifying this? So that the other members that weren't at the meeting would have knowledge.
Mr. Vineyard, can you help shed some light on the resolution regarding the designating for self-insurance to capital projects?
Yes, sir. At that February meeting, you were asked to consider 2 actions, which you subsequently approved. You were setting aside $815,000 in fund balance to address self-insurance problems. By the previous discussion I just mentioned, we're only going to use $372,000 and change of that $815 if you approve all of this next week. we are proposing that you take the balance of that $815,000, which is $442,507, and designate it as capital. There is no list of capital. It merely is a statement by this body that you're setting aside money that in the future, if there are capital needs that arise, you would have available at your disposal $982,000 and change to address those capital needs, whatever they may be.
Mr. Fultz, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I just understood you to answer this question, but let me just make it clear. Do we have a capital projects plan, a long-term capital projects plan, or not?
The simple answer to that is no. We are starting one, but we are not where I would like to see us, nor where I think this body would like to be.
Isn't there a directive from the state comptroller that we have such a plan?
I'm not aware of a directive. They certainly encourage that, as most all of you are probably familiar, because of our from time to time we would borrow money, and you generally want a statement of what your needs are into the future. And
I think I read that they actually are requiring a capital plan now.
Well, we have acknowledged we don't have one, and we have made them aware we are trying to develop one.
Okay. So we're putting this $400,000 into a fund for which we have no plan. I'm very uncomfortable with that. I can't vote for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Samples, you're recognized.
I'd like to ask Mr. Vineyard, please. Mr. Vineyard, how much did we originally set aside for that capital plan? 500,000?
A little over that, yes, sir.
500,000. So why is it that we need to take this 400 and whatever thousand it is and add to that? What's the magic number of $994,000 or $942,000?
There is no magic to it. It is merely simple arithmetic on my part. We previously asked you if you would designate and set aside money in your fund balance for two specific needs, self-insurance and capital. And all we're saying is we're just asking you to reclassify the unused portion of the self-insurance appropriate designation and move it to capital so that as needs arise, you don't have to come up with additional funding. You would have already pre-identified up to $982,000 worth of funding.
Would we not be better off? I mean, that's another penny on the tax rate. Would we not be better off to add that against what we're taking out of the fund balance?
Well, this money is already fund balance. All you're doing is taking it from one designation to another designation. The only alternative is you don't do anything and it falls to undesignated.
I just have a problem with putting that much money in there when we don't have a list, simply because if we put that much money in there, the list will magically appear. That's the reason I voted against it in the budget last night. So, I mean, that's just my feeling. Thank you.
I respect that opinion, but you're going to get a list because I'm committed to get you one of the needs that we're aware of.
Commissioner Moon, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vineyard might want to respond to, when he goes to fill out or has conversations with rating agencies, I would think that those agencies would recognize a county of this size and the number of properties and buildings that the county has, that we would have some capital needs of some amount, and what amount would be reasonable for a community of this size. Thank you.
Mr. Vineyard, you want to shed any light on Mr. Moon, or Commissioner Moon's comments?
Shortly after my arrival here 2 years ago, we found ourselves undergoing our rating surveillance with the rating agencies back to back. And one of the things that we were reminded of is we have no capital planning. we will be in the future in the market, in the capital markets. This county will grow. This county will have needs. Do I know what those are now? No. I just know it's going to happen based on my prior experience. What you want to convey is that we do have semblances of planning and that we do try to make provisions for some of our needs. Not all of your capital needs will have to be paid for with debt. This would be one of those examples. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, and if you spend any time just walking around on this campus, just picking this since we're in this building, there are a number of issues that we will have to address on this building at some point in the future that are, some are life safety issues in my opinion. And we're trying to get those assessed so that we can give you a list, an informed list, not just a swag of what we're talking about. We may do things for economic reasons. Maybe we do some energy efficiency things that will require us to change windows or whatever in order to cut down on utilities in the future. So there are a number of things, just since we're sitting in this room, that we're going to have to do to this building. But I don't know the order of magnitude.
Thank you. Commissioner Fultz, you're recognized to speak for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We may have needs, but the way I think we should be operating is we ought to have a list of what those needs are and what the potential costs are before we start throwing money into a fund. I think that's a problem. As far as letting the rating agencies dictate the way we run the county, that's probably not a good thing to do if you look at the country's experience in 2008 when everybody followed the rating agency recommendations and it almost destroyed the world economy. So I don't think the rating agencies are a good reference. And I don't see why we can't take this money and put it into the debt service fund and pay off some debt. That would seem to me to make a heck of a lot more sense. Thank you.
Mr. French, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess if my question is, if we designate this to this capital project fund and we see that we don't need it, we can do the same thing we did with this drug fund and redesignate it at a later date. In other words, this $815,000 that we had for the insurance fund, we just used $372,000. If we don't use that, we can redesignate it at any time, can't we?
Yes, all of this is at your direction. And let me apologize if I've confused anybody. We're not moving the money from anywhere. It stays in the general fund balance. All we're saying is, if you were to approve this, we're just designating a portion of our fund balance to be used for these types of things. Nothing can happen unless this body appropriates the money. Nothing. Whether you have a list or don't have a list. It would be similar, if I could use this analogy, to the old days when I was setting up a Christmas club. I was taking money, instead of putting it in my savings account, I put it in a Christmas club account. And I was using that money for Christmas, not for regular savings. It's still a savings in the bank. And it's still in the general fund. It's not going to a capital project fund. It's not going to the debt service fund. It's in the general fund. So I apologize if I confused anybody.
Mr. Vineyard, Mr. Samples, sorry.
Mr. Vineyard, please. It just seems to me like that it would make more sense before we move this money that we have a list and we know where we're going. That's all I've got. That's my only point. I have no problem with setting up the capital fund. I voted for it, and I know we need it. I'd like to hear from, Damon as to what this building needs. I'd like to know what we're getting into. Maybe we need to put $442,000 in there, and maybe we only need to put $242,000. But right now we're just we're just saying we got a bunch of money, let's designate it. And I'd like to know exactly what we're looking at. I mean, at this point in time, I know that list can change. It could change if lightning hits this building later tonight. All I'm saying is, do we really know how much money we need in there? No, we don't. I mean, you had some idea when you started your Christmas club of who you're buying Christmas presents for. I don't mean to be facetious, I'm sorry.
No, it was more like I knew what I could afford, and that was it.
Any other discussion? I have a point of clarification, Mr. Vineyard. The resolution that you referenced in part of the packet from February, it says that we would provide $545,000 to be designated for fund balance, to be going into the capital account. And then you have $442,507, which is part of this resolution. When you given us a total of $982,507 that would be in there. My math says that it should be $987,507. So my question is, what is the correct number?
Well,
Because if we need to amend it, I'd rather amend it here than amend it going at the full commission meeting.
I'm fine with what we have in this resolution.
Then I guess my question is we passed a resolution in February that we appropriated $545,000. And if we add $442,000 to that, that would be $987,507.
I understand.
And I don't think we've appropriated through this body the use of $5,000 of capital fund balance.
You've not approved anything other than designating any pot.
I understand. So I'm trying to understand mathematically if because what I'm referencing is the prior resolution where we approved 545, and if we add 442 to it, that should give us 987.
Right.
The resolution is written at 982. Which number should we be at?
The 545, add 5 to this one.
Okay.
Make it 5,987.
507?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to amend the resolution? Motion made by Commissioner Lewis. Do I have a second? Second made by Commissioner Carver to amend the resolution to read $987,507 would be designated for fund balance. Please vote on the amendment. Or actually, do we have any discussion on the amendment? See no discussion. Please vote on the amendment. The amendment is approved to change the number from 982,507 to 987,507. Next, is there any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing no lights, please vote to forward this item forward to the full commission. Commissioner French?
13 yeses and 3 noes.
The motion shall be forwarded onto the full commission. At this time, that we have the appropriation resolution, which is on the agenda as item G42 and also included as item G32. Mr. Vineyard, do you have a preference to how we go forward with this? Because apparently it's on here twice.
Not on ours.
Oh, it's not? What does this body have?
G4, 1 and 2.
You have it as G4, 1 and 2.
Yes.
All right, then. What I have is G, then I'm assuming that there's no other items underneath G3. Then I will then go forward to item G41, resolution setting the tax rate for the year beginning July 1, 2014 and ending June 30th, 2015. Do I have a motion to forward that on to the full commission? Motion made by Commissioner Samples, second by Commissioner Carver. Do I have any discussion? Commissioner Helton, you are recognized to speak, sir.
What is the present tax? Is it 66, 107, 42? Wait a minute, say it one more time. Clarify that, please, sir.
The current rate is 64 on general county, 108 on schools, and 43 on debt service for a total of 215.
No, sir.
Commissioner Fultz, you're recognized.
I guess I'm going to raise a couple of points of order here. I think we were in violation of the law yesterday on the public hearing. The law is very specific that the Budget Committee meeting, it says, following such public hearing, the Budget Committee shall make final revision to the budget document and prepare copies for presentation to the county governing body. Anybody that was here yesterday knows that the Budget Committee meeting was held first and the public hearing was held second. That appears to be a violation of the law, and that may make for some problems forwarding the budget to the commission. In addition to that, there are a couple other problems. I have been requesting from Mr. Vineyard for several weeks that he send me a breakdown of the employees that are associated with the new budget, and he did do that, and it arrived in my inbox this morning.
Commissioner Fultz, are you talking about is your questions and comments regarding the tax rate, or is it regarding the appropriations?
Well, it's regarding the budget process. The public notice for the budget has both the tax rate and the expenses.
But basically, they might be cross going over back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the problem is with the accuracy of the public notice, in addition to the problem last night of when we heard when the public hearing was held. Now, let's come back to the public notice that was put in the paper. The public notice that was put in the paper, which is barely readable, and you'll have to forgive me, but I think it says that the general fund has 400 and... Are your eyes better than mine?
Looks like 498. It's hard to tell. It's double printed.
Okay. I thought it was 468. Gordon thinks it's 498. His eyes are probably better than mine. However, the breakdown that I received this morning shows 523 employees in the new budget. Now, that's a problem. And I also went back to the breakdown from last year, and it turns out that the number published in the legal notice is different than the breakdown that I was provided last year. It also has a number that I think is either 460 or 490, but the last year's number was 507. So The problem is our legal notice wrong? If it is, we have a problem. And the other problem is, I don't think we held a legal public hearing based on the law. And I know you know more about the law than I do, Mr. Chairman, but if you look at the very bottom of the page, you can see the wording.
The law is as the law is stated. I guess the question, Commissioner Fultz, is if you believe that we are out of compliance with the law, are you making a motion to lay this issue on the table? Are you making a motion to send this back to the Budget Committee? What course of action would you like to make a motion for this body to take?
I think we ought to send it back to the Budget Committee until we get all our numbers straight here. We need A, our legal procedures straight, and B, we need to have our numbers straight, and C, if the numbers change, we clearly have to do a new legal notice. I think we got to go back to the Budget Committee.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion to forward the resolution regarding the setting of the tax rate back to the Budget Committee. Do I have a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. Mr. Fultz, you still have the floor, sir.
Then I might make a motion to lay it on the table until we get clear numbers.
We have a motion made by Commissioner Fultz to lay this on the table. Do I have a second for that motion? Having no second, it fails for lack of a second. Commissioner Fultz?
Well, I guess then I need a ruling on the point of order. The point of order is that what we're considering here is illegal.
That is a determination of law, and I am not a judge. Therefore, I cannot issue a determination of law. You have made your point clear to this body, and the body has chosen not to issue a second to your two requests. Therefore, we will go forward. Commissioner Samples, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Would it be possible to get the county attorney's opinion on, there's no sense going forward if we're in violation of the law. Would it be possible to get an opinion from the county attorney by next week? Is that something we want to do? If that's what the law says, we don't want to go forward if we're going to be in trouble over the budget, even though I recommended it. I voted to recommend it. I'd like to hear the other Budget Committee's members.
Commissioner Lewis, you're recognized to speak, sir.
I would agree with Commissioner Samples in that there's no need to have to come undo something that we've done if we're in some kind of violation. If we can get an opinion from the county attorney in the next day or two, and I don't know that it would take a week, I would certainly like to know what his opinion is.
Commissioner Lambert?
I call for the previous question.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The Budget Committee is your committee, and the county attorney works underneath your direction.
I'd like to ask that you allow us to take this to the county attorney and let it get a decision from him before we go further on this. That would be my recommendation.
How quickly do you believe we could get an answer back from the county attorney?
I'll start first thing in the morning. I would hope we could get it back by the end of this week.
Do you think that if we were to stand in recess of tonight's meeting and reconvene starting Friday at noon, that we would have the answers that?
Yes. If you choose to do that, I'll work with the attorney. We'll have the answers Friday afternoon.
And can you make sure that the county attorney would be here when we reconvene our meeting?
I can ask him to, yes.
I think we are all of the same opinion that none of us want to go forward if what Mr. Foltz has stated is in fact a violation of the law, because then we are putting more of a burden on ourselves if we wait until next Thursday night's full commission meeting, discover that we have an irregularity in our process, and have to start all over again from the beginning. I understand Commissioner Lambert has the floor, and I still have a point of order that I have to rule upon. I would like to take an informal poll of the commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Moon?
Deal with these two items at the end.
Yes.
That's,
Mr. Fulcher, are you willing to withdraw your point of order?
Yeah, until
Yes, until it comes up again.
Very well. So if I'm understanding, Commissioner Moon wishes to move items 4.1 and 4.2 to the table till the end of the meeting.
I move that G4.1 and 2 be laid on the table.
I second. Until a date certain.
Well, no.
Until tonight, until item G10. They'd be transferred to the end of the agenda.
I thought we were gonna move it to Friday.
We knew that at
Mr. Chairman, this shouldn't be discussed, but the intent is deal with these other items and take back from the table tonight in this meeting, because if it's on the table, when you gavel this meeting closed, it's gone.
Correct. No, the way that I believe that everybody wants us to proceed is we're going to move G4, 1, and 2 to the table. We will then conclude with items G5 through G9, at which time we will take back up G4, 1, and 2 off of the table, and at that point in time, this body can either vote to forward those onto the full commission or vote to recess until a time certain. By recessing, it does not conclude the meeting is not adjourned. We are just in recess until we have more information to discuss those items. Is everybody clear? So I have a motion to move G4, 1, and 2 to the table to the end of the meeting. Do I have a second from Commissioner Helton? Any further discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion. Please vote. Items G4, 1, and 2 are laid on the table. At this time, it is item G5, resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Blount County Highway Department and the City of Friendsville. I have a motion made by Commissioner French to move items G5 and G6 forward to the full commission. I have a second by Commissioner Moon. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote. Item G5 and G6 are hereby forwarded on to the full commission. Next is item G7, a resolution by the Blount County Commission pursuant to TCA 54-10-216 to close and vacate an abandoned roadbed and right-of-way. I entertain a motion to forward that on to the full commission. Motion made by Commissioner French.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foltz. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward item G7 forward to the full commission. Item G7 is forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G8, the setting of a public hearing regarding a resolution to amend the zoning resolution of Blount County, Tennessee, adding new requirements for commercial campgrounds and recreation vehicle parks and allowing such a special exception with specific limitations in the R1 rural district. I shall entertain a motion regarding, I believe on this one, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Pitts, we actually set the public hearing here at this meeting. Is that correct? We forward it to the full commission. The full commission then votes to set the public hearing. Okay, there's a motion. I will entertain a motion to forward this on to the full commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to send this forward to the full commission, recommending a date of the July agenda committee meeting.
Understood. I have a motion made by Commissioner Moon to move this forward to the full commission with the July.
Mr. Chairman, I was the August agenda committee meeting.
Motion made by, I misunderstood. I thought he said July, but apparently he said August. Do I have a second to forward this on to the full commission with an August hearing date? Second. Second made by Commissioner Lael. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please vote to forward item G8 forward to the full commission with the hearing date set in August.
You have 15 yeses and 1 no.
Item G8 is forwarded to the full commission. Next is item G9, a resolution delegating authority of the Blount County Legislative Body to allocate space within county-owned buildings to the Blount County Mayor. I will entertain a motion regarding this. Motion made by Commissioner Lambert. Second by Commissioner French. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote to forward item G9 forward to the full commission.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G9 is forwarded to the full commission. Motion made to take item G4, 1, and 2 off the table. There is a second. Please vote. And the second was Commissioner Helton. Please vote to take these off the table.
You have 16 yeses.
Item G41 is back for consideration. Commissioner Foltz, you're recognized to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I raise the same points of order, and let me make clear that should this go to the county attorney, there are really two issues here. One is the public hearing and whether it conformed to the law. The second is the numbers of employees that were published in the legal notice of the budget. And those are the two potential legal problems I see. Thank you.
Commissioner Moon?
I move that we recess to 12 noon Friday, sir.
There is a motion made by Commissioner Moon to recess this body until 12 noon on Friday, a second by Commissioner Samples. Any discussion? Please vote.
You have 15 yeses and 1 no.
This body stands in recess until 12 noon, Friday the 13th. 2014 in this room. Friday the 13th, you all asked for it, that's what we got.